and I would like to discuss some of the debates over physician-assisted suicide. And the legal definition interpreted by uslegal.com says it is a voluntary act terminating one's life by taking lethal medication with the direct or indirect assistance by a physician. What I think about this when I started doing my research, basically, is very difficult to really say what is good and what is not good. To have the ability to end someone's life or have that person end their own life because of a terminally ill disease, and they sort out all types of pain alternatives to get them out of agony. You can study it, and there's so much information out there explaining in detail what this means. The Supreme Court in 1997 really backed off from this, and they decided that it is a federal law to have someone kill themselves, but they leave it to the states to make that decision. And right now, there are 4 states, Oregon being the first, after the Supreme Court decided that states have jurisdiction over the Right to Die, Dignity Act in place. And Oregon actually has one of the highest amounts of deaths due to physician-assisted suicide. 170 people have been sought out with this prescription of death, because that's how it's sought out. Doctors actually write a prescription and give medications to seek the end-of-life care in hospice and disease-ridden people. There are certain eligibility requirements that I found to be fascinating. You have to be 18 years or older. You have to be a resident of Oregon, and you have to have the mental capacity to show that you are fine and solid in mind. And you actually have to wait 15 days after the prescription is given. And you also have to have an illness that is giving you 6 months or less to live. One of the problems that can happen in this debate, and why it's so controversial, because we are giving doctors prescriptions to kill people. You can look at it as being in control, how some doctors can play God, and you don't know the ethical or the philosophical reasonings of what insurance companies, I mean, this is so broad, it could go in so many different avenues. With our new healthcare reforms, it's actually cheaper to write a prescription to end someone's life than it is to prolong their life. Now, there was a 29-year-old woman by the name of Brittany Maynard. She basically had a brain injury, brain cancer. And she felt she was an advocate for the Death by Dignity Act. And she believed, as many do, that it's just a right to tell a person that it's wrong to tell a person they don't have a choice in how they should end their lives. Especially when suffering and agony is a part of someone's life in the end. And sometimes, believe it or not, some of the stats that I read, a lot of people don't make the choice to die because of pain. They do it because of a burden they may be towards their family, and the medical costs sometimes plays a big part. I was astounded by that, because the first thing I think euthanasia is end of suffering. No, the suffering is also very psychological too. But I do believe that people should have a choice in the manner of choosing, but when it's done, I think it has to be the right to make that decision when you're of solid mind. We don't want, they went into detail in some of the studies that I went over, that are we going to have a lot of depressed suicidal people wanting to have doctors write a prescription because they are depressed? So these are some of the pros and cons that can go along with this idea. But I do believe in the 14th Amendment and the equal opportunities rights, and the clause, the due process clause in the Constitution that says that every individual should have a right. And Brittany showed basically she said publicly when she made her stance about pro physician-assisted suicide, that she had a family, she was home, she had her mom, she had her dad, and she said she can't imagine trying to rob anyone else of that choice. And I believe what she believes as well. I think we all should have a choice when it comes to end of life process. Thank you.
Do you think this thing could go out of control?
That is one of the debates.
Like, say, eventually if the government decides, well, we can decide what you...
The government is just monitoring what the states do to ensure that a lot of ethics and views are not compromised, like murder people.
Well, say for instance, like, if there's a terminally ill person, they want to live, they want to try to find every way to live. The government says, well, you're not a benefit to society, so you have to die.
The government
They
is
can't
not,
do that.
the federal government are allowing the states to make jurisdictions. Right now, Oregon,
You're not in
Vermont,
the society.
Oregon, Montana, Washington, Vermont, and it's another
I
state.
mean, they're not allowing it, but down the road, it could go out and get out of control.
I think it can get out of control, definitely. I think it can get out of control if it's not regulated properly, yes.
So, the question back here.
Yes.
Do you think people who, okay, so let's say that someone gets those pills, do you think that other people can they're always gonna have more like left over maybe when they decide to pass away? Do you think what's gonna cause people to not abuse them? Like people who aren't same-minded find them and then take them themselves and then kill themselves, because that's just more people. You know, it's like it can get out of hand, like if you get abused just like any other prescription drug or any drug on the street or anything like that.
Well, it is a prescription from a medical doctor, number one.
Okay.
Number two, I think there are certain guidelines that are in place when you make this decision. So when they give you the cocktail, as Dr. Kevorkian, who was a totally weird guy, but it has to be monitored and exact. When you euthanize an animal, okay, either orally, intravenously, it's given the amount, the proper amount to actually take them to the other side.
So there would be no leftovers.
So there would.
Okay, yeah.
But like, what if someone robs like a CVS? It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it does. It does happen all the time. My brother works there.
How many did they get all the pills?
Everyone robs the CVS at Fall Creek.
You know?
Okay,
Like
so
Cleveland just had a big drug bust
so-
like a couple years ago.
you think it's like completely logical to end your life at like the very end, like if it's for bills and stuff. You think that's correct because like I don't like being the depressing person or anything, but my dad, unfortunately, about a year ago, he told me he has CLL, which is chronic lymphocystic leukemia. It is incurable. And thankfully, it is 10 years he can have 10 years of good life, and even more if he gets better treatment. Thank you, MD Anderson. So, do you think it's logical to end it like at the very end, like because of the bills? Because a week stay in a hospital is about $100 grand.
That is why I personally, when I started doing my research on the subject, because I personally know people who have been in hospice who said they have 6 months to live and live 6 years after that. It has to be something that there is no other alternative when the person is in agonizing pain. And when that happens, outside of the burden of being a burden to the family or financial burden, I'm looking at anything that suffers. I don't think anybody in this room wants to suffer.
No.
I really don't think so.
Especially your loved ones. No one wants to see that.
And even a loved one. We do it for animals sometimes, you know, so you have to be careful though with people and the power that you give people. And that's the problem. And I think that's why most states are not jumping on this bandwagon right now. Texas says no, Virginia says no, New York, New Jersey says no, but other states like Oregon, Montana, Vermont, Washington, they are saying yes. And that could be a little dangerous if regulation is not.
Statistically, do you know if physician-assisted suicide is a rare thing or is it kind of common?
It's actually nothing, it's very common. It's very common, it's not a new idea. The Netherlands have been using this for years in Europe. It has been speculated that Jackie O, knowing that she was going to die and there was no hope and her cancer spread all over her body and she was no longer, she actually, it's not really factual, it's insinuated, an assumption that she chose this way to die with her family at home.
We'll take one more, Jonathan, and then we'll end it out.
Well, since you mentioned the Netherlands, did you know they lowered their age so kids can do it now?
Well, this is the problem that I have, because I was automatically thinking that the elderly, hospice care, you know, older people. But when this 29-year-old, very young, sound mind woman who lived in Oregon decided that she refused to be sick long-term, brain cancer, she sought out all other alternatives, and she was happy about the decision that she made.
Kids.
And her family, she was 29, that's very young.
I mean, this is younger, this is around 12 years old, from what they write it down to.
Well, the regulations say you have to be at least 18.
Yeah, I mean, since you mentioned the European countries, that's what they did.
Okay, let's give Marilyn a hand. Thank you.